Hey guys, it's Danny. Today we are looking at a new way, for me at least, a new way of delivering CO2 to my planted tank. And this is something I've never used before because I didn't have to. I just had pretty tiny aquariums, like 80 liters, and like the biggest tank I've ever had up until like this age was 150 liters. So 240 would be the biggest tank that I've ever had. And as far as my knowledge goes, at these volumes, using diffusers is not really all that optimal. You lose a lot of CO2. And so I went ahead and I got myself a CO2 reactor. Now, locally, I could only easily find the Sera one and not even the one, let's say, optimal for my tank size. There are two options, a smaller one and a bigger one. I got the bigger one, the Sera 1000, because that's what I found available. And I really didn't want to wait around on Amazon. You know, it's not gonna harm anything. Furthermore, I think it's just going to dissolve the CO2 better. I also have enough space in my stand here, so why not? So today I'm gonna give you a sort of unboxing, installation, and how-to, let's say, of that reactor, and I'll give you some thoughts. It is one of the more affordable reactors on the market. I know there are some which are a little bit more complicated. They have a system of like, you know, those plastic bowls that sometimes are used as filter media. Yeah, there are many types of reactors on the market. I chose, I would say, the most affordable one. It works with some propellers, and I dare say it does a very, very, very good job so far. But more on that after I show you the unboxing and installation and everything. So let's go a little bit in the past and then we'll come back to the future. Alright, so here we have the Sera Flore CO2 Reactor 1000. It is made for aquariums that are over 600 liters and mine is 240, but I'll tell you what, it works great. You cannot really overdo it with a CO2 reactor. I guess it will just dissolve CO2 better. So in the package we have some mounting. You can actually mount it on the aquarium on the outside using some suction cups, but as you will see, you can also drill it into the stand, as I did. So the CO2 reactor has an inlet and an outlet where you'll have to connect the hoses of your external filter. And the way it mounts is actually really easy. It kind of just clips on a little bit to its mount. So on the top, you will connect the hose that goes into the aquarium. Now, fun thing, my Oase hose got a little bit enlarged by the filter. So what I had to do was cut a piece of it to make it fit because otherwise it did not fit. And by the way, I'm using an Oase 850 thermo. And it's a perfect fit with this reactor, so if you have thinner hoses than mine, it might actually not work. A little side note, the plastic of this reactor seems somewhat flimsy, so I would not put too much pressure or too much force on it. Hence why I decided the second hose to first dip it in hot water to make it a little bit more flexible before applying it, because I had to apply quite a bit of force, and I don't have extreme amount of force, but the plastic was already making noises, so I was a little concerned that I will break it. So better dip the hoses in hot water first, just to be sure that you're not gonna crack any plastic, because it is just not the thickest plastic of life. Right, so on the side we are connecting the hose that goes into the filter on the outtake, so not the inlet but the outtake. So now I'm taking some measures and deciding where I want to place the mount, drilling some hose and pretty much fixing it using some screws. And hey presto, I am pretty much done. Just arranging everything in the cabinet, everything fits, thankfully. And the last step is to connect the hose from the CO2 bottle on top of the reactor. But then, disaster, it's leaking. Now, thankfully, it wasn't cracked, although initially I thought it was. But I think either the propellers inside weren't sitting properly, either the O-ring wasn't sitting properly, either, I don't know, I didn't tighten it properly. I don't know what happened. I disassembled it, assembled it back, tested it again, and it's not leaking for the past, at this point, 3 weeks. So victory, but I cannot tell you how nervous this guy makes me because I don't trust that plastic, but so far so good. And here we are, back to the future. Thoughts. It's working so well. So well. I do have, let's say, the same amount of CO2 in my water as I would have with the diffuser, but with more bubbles per second. I'm currently running 2.5 bubbles per second, and I find it to be sufficient. I might increase it to 3, maybe. It's a big tank, I don't know. I'll keep it as this for now. But this is kind of the same amount of bubbles I was running on my 80 liters with a diffuser. And this is like 3 times the size. So definitely there is some economy there. Definitely it's much better mixed with the water because I do not have tiny bubbles. I have a few, like if I look at the filter outtake, I do see some bubbles, but I don't fully trust their CO2 bubbles because I'm using an Oase Biomaster filter. And as probably some of you already know by now, Oase stuff spit air into the aquarium. Whether it's the surface skimmer, whether it's the Filto Smart, whether it's the big filters, they all spit air bubbles into the aquariums. This one too, from time to time, I'll make a review on it. From time to time, I hear it. It drags up air from somewhere. It's like a drain, that's the sound, and then spits it out. From time to time, I get one of those moments of this thing spitting air. Bane of my existence with this Oase things. If you don't mind air bubbles, that's great. That's why I'm only running this guy at night. I do not want to see the bubbles. I just do not. Anyway, so I don't fully trust that what I'm seeing there are CO2 bubbles not fully dissolved. It might just be air bubbles from the filter. But other than that, definitely I don't have a myriad of micro bubbles in my tank. I think it looks great. And judging by how my plants are pearling, I do believe it does a very good job at dissolving enough CO2 for the plants to be okay. And apart from that little mishap, which I don't know if I caught on camera, I probably didn't tighten it properly and it started to drip and it was a little scary, but I did not have any drips ever since then. I have a water sensor under it because it was scary to see it drip. But yeah, other than that, I didn't have any more issues. I'm sure I just didn't tighten it properly. I'm sure maybe the O-ring was not sitting straight. Something was off in how I assembled it, but I just unscrewed it, made sure that everything is in place, screwed it back together, and now it's fine. Thank goodness. But other than that, I don't have issues other than it's a little loud. I hear trickling of water. In the beginning, while it has a lot of air, it can get very loud, but I kind of like tilted it and that helped to decrease the sound. Also, it was vibrating a little too much and in contact with the stand, it was creating this vibrating sound which went away. So it needs a bit of time to get a little bit more primed, I guess. And those vibrations I don't hear anymore, which is good, but there is a trickle of water that I hear. I don't mind it, to be fully honest. I mind more the buzzing from the filter. Another thing Oase filters do, they buzz. They're not silent. So the buzzing from the filter is louder than that trickle of water. So I don't have an issue with it, but you might. They're not super whisper silent. At least not until now, after 3 days or so of using it. It's not that silent, but it's not that bad either. Other than that, I think it's great and I think it does a great job, and you know, you don't have equipment in the tank, it doesn't distract you. If you really like the look of the diffusers, which I know it can be cool, then you know you're not gonna have that. I do love how diffusers look like right there when they release the bubbles, but when I see the micro bubbles in the water mass, no. So if you don't like micro bubbles, I think this is the product for you. And yeah, that is about it. I'll let you know how it runs like in the long run, if it leaks, hopefully not. But for a first impression, I really like it. I'm really happy with it. And let me know if you have the product, have you been using it for long? How is the plastic? Is it still intact? Is it cracked? That's my biggest fear. My biggest fear right now. So other than that, I'm pretty happy with it. So let me know your experience if you have experience with this product, and I hope this video helps you out. I'll link you to some links from Amazon if you're interested in the product as well. Mind you, I'm using the big version. If you have smaller tanks, maybe it's a bit of an overkill. You know, even if you have a tank as big as mine, maybe the small one is what you need. But hey, I didn't find it. So thank you so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed hanging out with me today and hope this video helped you out. And I'll see you with an update soon. Bye!